Welcome to Beyond the Walls podcast. I'm your host, Kylie, and I am so excited to be able to have this conversation with you to help teach you tools, ideas, support on how to go beyond your walls too. Are you tired of feeling stuck and trapped and like a victim in your own life? Maybe you need to find a new way to look at it. Look at your situation from a different angle. Maybe we need to learn and take a look to see how we can re-choose or recreate a life that is going to bring you joy and purpose and feel free and exciting. So let's get started on today's message. 2024 will go down in the books as one of the worst for me. How about you? How are you feeling about it? I know this time of year, everyone is trying to create a vision for what's to come. And we're setting goals or resolutions or dreams for what we expect and hope and desire, for where we're going. And I love that time of year. I love fresh starts. It's kind of like the same as when you start school and you get all the fresh school supplies and all the new pens and notebooks. It's a fun time to just press the reset button. And I definitely feel like I am ready for a reset this year. But today I want to spend a little time just helping you understand what it might look like to close out 2024. And I think the value of doing that is that we don't go into 25 with regret or shame or fear or even just doubts following us into this new space that we're trying really hard to dream big about, right? We want to be brave. We want to be adventurous. We want it to be better than what it was. The value of calling it into completion, I believe, will really do you a lot of wonders. It will show up for you and how you speak to others about it, how you'll speak to yourself about it, and how it's going to impact your future. Will it be an unhealed wound forever, or will it be a healthy scar? I think sometimes, we can feel a little too extreme this time of year. For me, right? I started out, I'm like, oh my gosh, this was the worst, right? So I would lean towards like, it was really bad. But sometimes we can feel like it was really great. And so if it was a really great year, I'm so fired up for you. But it's also really easy to then not take time to even just acknowledge the hiccups or the hurts or the disappointments, the things that didn't really go well, which doesn't mean we need to go back and need to make it a wound. But I think giving time to just give voice to it for what it was and what it wasn't allows us to truly clean up those loose ends and to just be really intentional about what we're going to be intentional about. And if it was a really bad year, I think sometimes it can feel like we're just grasping at straws to find the positive things, because it really is true that it wasn't all bad and it wasn't all good. And I think when it was a really hard year, just trying to look for the things that did work out, the things that did go well. It's not toxic positivity. It can be genuine, and both can be true at the same time. But I promise you that there is great value in taking honest stock about what has been now that we have a little bit of, removed distance, assuming that you're not like right in the middle of something tragic that just happened to you right now. But this time last year was like a really long time ago. Like it feels like this year went by really fast, but in reality, so many things happened this year. And it's, at least for myself, I feel like it doesn't feel as painful. I remember the painful moments of last year and how intense they felt, but I'm not feeling that same degree of intensity today. So I know for myself, as I prepared to record this message, my overall feelings and attitude about 2024 was that it sucked. It really was one of the hardest years I've had in a long time. I hit record lows in my parenting, in my marriage, in my friendships, my health, my overall confidence, and my identity. As a new entrepreneur, as a life coach, and as a podcaster, all of that was like, it was already hard just because I'm new at it. I know I'm new at it. I know I'm actively doing something uncomfortable and challenging. I logically understand what I'm taking on, and I'm surrendered to the startup challenge of it, right? The daunting task of doing something new for the first time and all the hard work without it feeling like there's any obvious fruit from it. But, the new heart of all of that this year was I went from having a business partner to going solo. Going solo was not my plan. It was not my desire. So I'm sure you can just imagine how easy it would have been to feel like such an imposter this year. How can I possibly show up as some kind of expert in this field and yet everything around me is falling apart? Who do I think I am? How am I supposed to be authentic yet protect my heart and my family? When is it honest and when is it just too much? But what kept me going this year was 3 really important lessons that I was willing, maybe not at the beginning, I had to be coerced a little bit, but eventually surrendered to participating in. And I think the things that stand out to me most was 1, just the fight to keep my identity out of the people and in Christ. The second one was that I don't have to be perfect. I can be both secure in my calling and need to grow in my character, right? I remember talking to a friend and she was like, counselors need counselors, coaches need coaches. Just because we can teach something and it's easier said than done, but know that I'm in the trenches with you and I am working, and there still has been so much growth and knowledge that has been gained, but we're still allowed to go through trenches as parents, as wives, as friends, as Christians, as employees, as professionals. We're allowed to have hard times and it not mean we're not enough and we're not capable and we're not allowed to participate in these roles. And I think the third thing for me was just not to give up. And I think that spoke a lot too for me just through my years. And if you've spent any amount of time with me, you know how much I've shared, how much of my life has been around just keeping it small and safe, quote unquote. And I think the willingness to keep showing up, even in the hard, was just a huge testimony for myself of how far I've come. And not fearing just the struggle in and of itself, but to keep moving forward. I think ultimately what I gained this past year was a very deep awareness, an acceptance, and a surrender to be patient and genuinely wait on the Lord. In general, I'm a very quick on my feet, quick to respond, quick to react, quick to take action. But I have always known that in the face of that, I've always lacked up to this point just a willingness, the ability, the security to sit in the muck with others who are not ready to act. When things are not quick fixes, they can't be forced, they can't be controlled, and I don't get to pick the timeline in which it gets resolved. And it's very hard for me to wait. My business partner, my spouse, my children, my friends, my business can't be controlled by me. I can't rush them. I can't fix them. They have just as many needs and weaknesses and strengths as I do. And I can't make them do what I want them to do when I want them to do it, or to choose the best outcome that I think they should have. And that was really a hard lesson that I believe was really a lesson I needed to learn. I was challenged to grow in perseverance, in long suffering, in gentleness, in faith, and in humility. Was I going to trust God in His timing and not mine? My grounding passage that I took in September was about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And if you don't know this story, it's found in the Old Testament. And they're being asked to bow down to an idol instead of God. And if they wouldn't, they would be thrown into a fire and killed. And they told the king that if God wanted to rescue them from going into the fire, He could do it. But even if He doesn't, they still would not bow down to the idol. And that has been my constant prayer and posture over the last 3 months, this faithful surrender. God, I want you to fix all these things. I want you to make them all good right now. I want the healing now. But even if you don't, I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to give in. I'm not going to stop showing up and standing firm. I'm not going to stop growing and leaning into the people and the circumstances around me, even if I feel ill-equipped or uncomfortable. I'm going to trust your timing or how deliverance will come. So as you hear in my sharing, the wounds are still close, but they're starting to heal. And I'm sharing today, honestly, more from a scar than a wound. I couldn't have done that 6 months ago, maybe not even 3 months ago. But today I feel peace and surrender to 2024. I learned a lot about myself. I grew a lot in some areas that really needed maturing. The relationships around me are healing, and I'm beginning to see the fruit. The storm is beginning to calm around me. And my biggest win is that I didn't give up. I leaned in and I waited. I kept doing what I felt called to do. So for me, I can't wait to close out 2024. I'm at peace with it. It is what it is. I don't have to understand all the reasons why it happened the way that it did to be at peace. I know that it's crucial for the people around me that have been going through the things that they've been going through. And I'm willing to leave room for the possibility that it was more about them than it was about me. And they may not be at the same level of peace that I am. They're still in the middle of their storms or their circumstances. And it's not up to me to fix it or to correct it right now. And so sharing all of that very vulnerably about just my world and my circumstances, I want you to consider now for yourself. How do you want to look back and to tell others about 2024? Will it be shared from a wound or a scar? Will it still have power over you to tear you down and keep you bitter, or will you allow it to make you better? Will it be the wall that isolates you? What do you see for yourself that you want to take into 2025 with you? I also want you to know that if you are still in the storm, it is okay to still need time to find that peace. But I want you to consider what posture you're in. Are you putting up walls of regret, fear, and shame? Or are they walls of healthy protection, patience, trust, curiosity? And if it's something that started just recently, remember that there was a lot of life that happened before this sudden upset happened. There's still a lot to take stock in, to keep it into perspective, right? So it doesn't go into this all or nothing my whole life kind of situation. And so I encourage you to spend some time, if you haven't already, thinking about all the ways it went right. The parts you're most proud of, the parts you're going to want to bring with you into 2025. But also to give time to acknowledge the disappointment, the losses, the triggers, the pain of others. And I want you to consider, how have you been letting it define your identity? What lessons will you learn from it? Will you choose to lean in and not give up? And then the only thing left is to just accept 2024 for all that it was and all that it wasn't. It is over. It is complete. Thank you for joining me today. I hope that brought you a lot of encouragement and some information to be able to apply to your own life and to start taking down those walls that are in your way. What is that one thing that you want to take on and take with you today? I would love to hear from you and to hear about it. Follow me here on the podcast so that you're alerted and don't miss any upcoming episodes. You can find me on Instagram or even on my website at beyondthewallspodcast.com. If you want more help, I offer one-on-one coaching and would love to connect with you. Until next time, have a great day.